Hello, and welcome to Local Chat. It's time, folks, for the Game of the Year discussion here in the great year of 2024. It's still 2024.
That's right.
Well, it's unlike some hacks who do their awards ceremony a month prior to the end of the year.
All those.
We wanted to give all the games time.
Yeah, we're not like the Muppets.
I saw somebody with a terrible take who was like, you know what's wrong with the Oscars is that movies that come out in January, February get forgotten. So we should have the Oscars the week of Thanksgiving. And it's like, no, don't do that.
But then the movies of December
in the same year
but would also get forgotten. You can't get away from being a year away from something.
Like,
well,
what is
also, like the Academy? Everybody in the Academy gets screeners, so it's like it's not like they missed it in theaters and then never saw it. If they're not watching it, that's on them.
Yeah, because I want to say the Game Awards. I want to say their cutoff is like the first week of November. So
it's
they basically
way early. It's crazy.
They cut off like 2 months worth of the year, which is dumb.
But we're giving everybody time so that we can play them. And
that's right.
Do this.
We played all of them. We played every game ever made.
Every game that came out last year.
It's true. All the itch ones too. Even the perverted ones. We played them.
Yeah.
Folks,
Played is doing a lot.
Local Chat episode 207 actually is our Game of the Year discussions. I'm gonna hand it over to probably our weakest member. Ian Gibson is gonna be leading us this year.
Thank you. I take that with pride. But not that type of pride. It's illegal now. Okay.
Sorry,
personal pride. Personal pride. Folks, we're going to be doing the same format we did last year, which we kind of last minute put together last year, and it turned out working incredibly well. We have picked what we think across all of us are the 12 best games of the year, and we're going to be going through them in release order. That's right. This is not a ranked list. There's not a number 2 versus a number 7. 12 best games of the year. However, each of us has also picked our game of the year, and it could be the same game, which means we have one Subpixel game of the year. It could be 4 different games because we each couldn't decide and pick something else. So as we go through this list of 12 best games of the year, we're going to tell you which ones are our personal games of the year. We've got about 2 hours to go through this. We will have minor spoilers. We're trying not to spoil the big story heavy stuff in these games, but we will talk about the middles of games in a way. And this isn't like a debate or discussion. We're not trying to talk about like this game's better than that game or whatever. This is just an opportunity to spend about 10 minutes per game, shine a light on that game, sing its praises, and tell you why it's one of the best games of the year. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a segue to the first game.
Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the first game coming out on February 8th from Arrowhead Game Studios is Helldivers 2. This is a brutal co-op shooter about defending Super Earth from alien threats. You've got to fight, strategize, and spread democracy across space. Oh, gentlemen, Helldivers 2. Hell of a game, isn't it?
It rules, some might say. It's just so good.
It's wild how good it is. It's wild how much it overcame this year, being its own publisher, or overcoming its own publisher who was trying to enforce all that PSN stuff, and breaking through that, and then just being a fantastic video game.
Well, I think we had talked about on a couple different local chats, because we were all kind of playing this game for several weeks in a row, how just like immediately good the game feel is right out of the box. Like they give you all these crazy stratagems, and the gameplay is like simple to understand with like the objectives and the goals, and the ragdoll physics are hilarious. It's just like they just give you this toolbox of wonderful little gifts, and they're like, all right, go nuts.
Yeah, and, that for me,
so
like That's for me is the craziest thing about this game and why it works so well is that it's a fun first design ethos, which is like the complete opposite of a grind to get good mentality and game mechanics that most modern games have. It's almost become this trope where a game will start by giving you everything and then, oh no, you fell down and hit your head and now you have to spend the rest of the game getting those abilities back. And Helldivers is like, no, we're going to start you at 10 and you're going to grind your way to 11. like you're just going to get all these crazy stratagems. We're going to tune this game so that it's always maximum chaos and excitement, and you're grinding for more of that. You're not grinding to get to the fun, you're grinding for more fun. And it's so cool to see how they did that with this game.
Not since the Joker came out has there been a game that a lot of people who like it don't realize they're the ones being made fun of.
Yes,
in a lot of ways. And that still happens with Helldivers 2. It's like they did something the other day and there was some subreddit post that was just like, hey, are they serious about this? I feel like they're not taking blah 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 seriously. And it's like, dude, these people do not share your weird politics or whatever you think is like the heart of this game. It is all satire.
It's an incredible game.
It's very good.
And I've Friendly Fire, like,
oh yeah,
I remember like games like Call of Duty and whatnot where you get like upset if you get friendly fired, but it's just like hilarious. You're like, oh no, Will's autocannon demolished me.
Yes.
Can you bring me back, please?
It's like 20 respawns plus ragdoll bodies when you die is them basically saying like, yeah, this is okay. We're going to encourage this in a way because it's always fun and it's very like non-punishing.
I dropped my 500 kilogram bomb strategy. Everybody run. It's so good.
It's the most fun you can have playing cannon fodder. Like you're just meant to die constantly, and that's kind of the point of it. And I think that like expectation versus reality, like some people are still like, why is this happening? Like I shouldn't be dying this much. And it's like, no, in world you should be like, absolutely, like you are like the 500th clone of your original self or whatever. And I just look back on it with such fondness of like, I have a couple clips that I was looking through just to when I was putting my list together of like, oh, like what are like the moments that I remember like recording from stream or like something that I was just testing out. And by far and away, Helldivers 2 was the one that made me just like grin and smile the most. It's just so much fun. It's ridiculous. It's also really like, it's a gorgeous looking game for how old and sort of cumbersome the engine is. So props to the team for making. I mean, it's like it's
like an outdated like Autodesk 3D.
It's from Autodesk. It's CAD software giant makes one game engine. Nobody uses it. They stop working on the engine, but for some reason Helldivers 2 is using it.
Yeah, it's so good.
But also
incredible game.
What Kyle said, noting that this is the first game we're talking about because it came out earliest in the year. But when we played it like 3 weeks ago to play one of the new updates, and it still rocks. And they've added the extra, like the mech suits and the little cars and a whole bunch of new weapons. I was
behind, like firing.
You just hop
like
right
you're
just
jump back in.
Yeah. It's not like we often. It's not like Destiny where you get back in and you're like, I don't recognize any of this.
Yeah,
you're just driving right back in. It's so good.
Even when they're not releasing new content, just week by week, day by day, they're like, doing the LARPing events in a way where they're like, oh no, the automatons have attacked this planet, and they're using that to change the weekly mission. They're constantly keeping the lore and the excitement around Helldivers 2 alive. Some of that is new content, stuff they held in behind and are slowly drip feeding out or surprise launching or teasing. But some of it is just like the lore master of Joel, who's like, yep, he is messing with your match. We can confirm that is happening. Just incredible community support for this game. Any other closing thoughts on Helldivers 2?
Hell of a game.
Hell of a game. Hell of a game. Folks, just 12 days later, we had another incredible game come out from Local Thunk. I'm talking about Balatro, which is a roguelike deck building poker game where you modify cards and create powerful combinations to defeat challenging bosses. This is such an incredible game that I believe it's is this somebody's game of the year?
Oh, it's my game of the year.
Wow. Jake, tell us about Balatro. What do you love so much about it?
So this was, I think I was a couple days late on this because I remember it came out and some of the folks that we follow, I think like the No Clips, the Min Maxes had gotten kind of early hands on and were like, guys, don't sleep on this game. It's nuts. And then it came out and I was starting to see everybody like universal praise of people like, okay, this game is operating on a whole different level. And I was a couple days late to it. And then I got into it, and it just sank its little teeth into me, and has not let go. As of December, when I got my Switch year in review, be like, hey, here's all the games you played this year. As of December 22nd, I had played almost 350 hours of Balatro.
Jesus.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Oh my God.
It's a lot of at the end of the day after dinner, Hazel and I are on the couch watching Bob's Burgers or something, and I've just got Balatro going. But I think I told on local chat, I told the anecdote of flying back home from my parents for Christmas. I was playing Balatro on the plane, and I looked up and I could see 3 other people in front of me playing Balatro on Switch on their phone, which never has happened to me before, that I've seen somebody else playing a video game on an airplane, if then that it's the same one that I'm playing and that there's multiple other people playing that game. It's so deceptively simple with then so much more going on under the hood, where ostensibly it's just a game about doing math and making the math get bigger. Like, how big can I make the math go? And it's just incredible. I think also it's served very well by the art design being wonderfully charming. All the different Jokers are super cute. The music is great, and how the music kind of has little variations depending on what stage of the game you're in. And then just like the game feel and like the animation of all the cards is so satisfying. It's top notch. This is just one of God's perfect games. And that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah. It's my understanding, Will, that I think you also like this game. Is that right?
I do. I hate to say it, but second Balatro game of the year has hit the stream, because boy, if I could give it a 9 out of 11, I'd give it a 10. It is a fantastic video game. I was gonna say this, and I know Ian's immediately gonna roll his eyes, but it's not often that my game of the year is also my favorite game of the year. Like sometimes there's a game that I love the most from that year, but it's not like the best game that came out that year. So Balatro is that game. I remember the demo came out. I played so much of it. I think I showed it to Karen, and she like beat it really fast and was just like, hey, is there more of this? And I'm just like, you gotta wait for the game to come out. And then the game came out and it just blew up. I love the music in it. I haven't like Jake saying, that is basically my Steam Deck game, other than Mini Motorways. Because every time I go to play a game on the Steam Deck, I'm like, I don't feel like paying attention to a video game, so I will play Balatro instead. The sound design, and the speed of the animations, go and watch, or next time you play the game, turn your animations down to 1 times, like regular speed, and you're just like, what the fuck is happening? So here's to the best drug that came out this year. Consult your doctor, please.
Forget about the opioid epidemic.
Oh god,
just Balatro.
The Sacklers have competition.
We just need to outreach.
Not tell Eli Lilly about this.
And they should. I really wish I could gamble money, so they should add me being able to gamble money and maybe microtransactions, stuff like that. Be really great. But
this game, this feels like there are a lot of games that do combos in terms of like, oh, you should do something to build this off of that. But this feels like one of the few games where the combos are at the core, and it's easy to build the combos, but it's hard to master the combos between the jokers and the tarot cards and the deck upgrades and all that. And it feels incredible when you're in a run and all of a sudden it clicks and your strategy with the jokers and everything starts to pay off. And it's a fantastic, roguelike, because every run really is going to be a little bit different and you can make each one work. And so it was hard for me, unless I was playing like a very specific deck and I was forcing it, it was hard for me to have identical runs because, if you're playing the game properly, you're reading what it's giving you, and then you're having to come up with different strategies, and any one of those works as long as you do it right. It's really, really good. And the other thing I want to call out in this game is that this game also had something that's rare, which is an absolutely incredible and very quick and very faithful mobile port of this game, which is amazing. It's rare to see a game go to mobile so quickly and so successfully, and to have that game be there. And like literally the only problem I have with the mobile port is that it doesn't cross save with your Steam. That's it. Everything else about the mobile port is just like perfect, and it's incredible to see them basically have double success this year. They put out an incredible game and they put out an incredible mobile port in the same year. Just an awesome game.
Yeah, so the mobile version is actually the version that I chose to play first. So I was a little bit of a latecomer to this game because I was like, I don't know where I want to play it. I don't know if I want it to be a computer game or if I want it to be mobile. So I waited it out, and I'm really glad that I did, because you're absolutely right. From what I've seen, I've never actually played it on desktop or Switch or Steam Deck or anything like that. I've only played it on my phone, but the experience I think is exactly the same. And to Jake's point, like it is sort of that go-to end of day, or like whenever you have like a free like 15-20 minutes, just pop it on and be like, go. Like I'm just going to see what I can do in this run. It slots into that time so easily, and it's still to this day like so much fun. And it's weird that it made it onto my game of the year list, because I don't like mobile games. Like I don't like playing games on my phone. This is like the one exception. There's like one or two games that I played on my phone like all the way through, and this game is, I mean, not that you can like play it all the way through technically, but like it's just a really rich experience every time you choose to open it up. And I'm glad I played it on my phone, like, which is so weird for me to say, but it's awesome, and it's just so much fun. Talking about the strategies with the jokers and everything, like it really has so much to think about actively while you're playing, and it never stops being fun.
Never.
Yeah, absolutely incredible game. Folks, let's move on. We've got 10 more games to go. Next up, releasing March 21st from Capcom. That's right, we're talking about Dragon's Dogma 2, an epic action RPG where you battle mythical beasts across a vast fantasy realm as the Arisen, aided by customizable AI companions called pawns. Will, we all know you're a Dragon's Dogma sicko.
Yep, they dragging me by my balls how much I love this game. 10 years we've been waiting. 10 years, folks. We were in the trenches with you 10 years ago. We were at the rubble, and we wanted Dragon's Dogma 2, and then it came out, and it's sorry, and we were still there. We were waiting, and it's perfect. It's honestly perfect. Fuck the haters. This from making the most ugliest human being you could ever make as your pawn or your character, and then making the second most ugliest thing you've ever seen as your pawn. I made Slug. I love Slug. He's my favorite. He is my greatest accomplishment, I think, of 2024, and my life.
People love Slug too.
I received a message on Xbox from a random person that said Slug is my boy. So, you know, I'm just happy he's out there getting work. The story, the story is cool and interesting, but it takes a little too long to get to. I don't know. Did anyone here beat Dragon's Dogma 2?
No, I got to that second area and did a little bit there, but then I dropped it because that was
So
like 25, 30 hours in.
you get all the way to the ending and you beat that game, and then they're just like, you did it wrong. Like, you did it wrong, bud. And so it like spits you back in there and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And then you do like the real ending of the game, and then it spits you back up into the world and says, hey, all of these hell portals have opened up all across the entire land that you know now, except also there's no water anymore. So you're just like,
oh my god,
it's just a whole new landmass to run through and have all these boss fights against these like weird blood things. And it is the weirdest thing to hide behind the ending of your video game, but it's just a whole nother section of that game. I haven't gone back to it since it came out. I don't know how much like improvements they've done to things. A lot of people didn't like the fast travel system, and I think they ironed out some stuff with that. But overall, it had such good feeling from the original game, and I think perfectly put you back in that, hey, we're just going to put you into this fantasy world. We're not really going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you a little bit more than the first game, but like, go have fun, fight things, hire pawns, and just, have a good time. Throw your pawns off the edge.
Yeah. So I never played Dragon's Dogma 1. I hopped into Dragon's Dogma 2. Really, really enjoyed it. It feels like medieval LARPing. There's like a very flamboyant theming where everybody's walking around and just be like, hello, my sir. It's crazy. There's like this underlying weirdness to everything. Like instead of saying jail, they say, I don't even know if they say it the same way, but it's GAOL, which Will told me is like an older English way of saying it, but it still comes across like weird.
The Elden Ring spelling.
It's how they do it in Elden Ring. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but in this, like they do that to a lot of words, and it feels like comedic Shakespearean in a way, and they lean into it. There's like, even when you're out in the world, there's this constant sense of chaos around every corner. Come across some goblins. Oh no, there's a troll. Oh no, here's a giant eagle that just picked you up, carried you across the map, and then dropped you, but your pawn is there to catch you when you land. And that pawn system, I don't know, Will, I mean, I feel like you're going to agree with me here. It feels like the best single player party system in an RPG, because you're making your own pawns, you're leveling them up, you're getting to kind of, I don't want to say dress them up, but equip them with stuff, and they help you out, and they're constantly talking to you and interacting with you. But then you're also encouraged to actively swap them out with other people. So I'm interacting with Will's pawn and other people's pawns, and it just so many like incredible little touches and unique things that make this game overall feel like a very weird, unique medieval experience. It's awesome.
Yeah, and to add to that, the pawns like learning from you, so like you can teach them when you pick up other pawns and you pick up a quest. If that pawn's master has done the quest, they're like, oh, follow me, I know where to go, let's go over here. Or you're fighting some monster and he's like, oh, I know how to take down a hydra, you got to go get on the hydra's back. All that stuff is fun. And then just the I don't think it had the best like quests or stories sort of things, but the world building, like going to these giant sphinx things, and like you have to figure out all these answers to all these riddles to open these chests, and then it's just such a cool world, and all this stuff, like you walk through it once, and in like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, like you're seeing all the stuff from everywhere, you're getting distracted. And in Dragon's Dogma 2, you aren't getting distracted, and you until you go back and you realize like, oh wait, this is there and that is there and this connects there, and it's not obvious like it is in the Zelda games. It's more like you have to be looking for it to find it. So it's letting those people who aren't enjoying the game still enjoy the game and fall away from it in not that much time, and the people who are really into it just like spend hours. It's great.
I do think it's funny, we've praised this game so much so far, but we haven't even talked about one of the best things about this game, which is the incredible depth of like combat mechanics. There's so many different classes, there's different weapons for each class, there's different spells, and then you have that for your pawn as well, so you can equip them and change out their spells. And as you go through the game, you're unlocking different classes. Like, I don't know what the total number of classes at the end is, but I want to say it's like 10 or 12 or something like that. It's crazy. Like, there's a lot of depth in this game in terms of how you want to play it. You want to play it stealthy. You want to play it like a wizard. You want to have a big sword. You want to have 2 swords. It's so much fun just playing through those class systems and all the different abilities and dodge rolls and jump attacks and side stabs that you can do in this game. Dragon's Dogma 2. Absolutely an incredible game. Folks, it's time to talk about our next best game of 2024. April 10th, from Miju Games, Planet Crafter. Will, what the fuck is Planet Crafter? Did you put this on the list?
I did. I'm just laughing to myself because it's back-to-back Ian and Will games. It's fun to see Jake and Kyle just be like, oh, what can I do? Where I'm
we're just going to take a step back. Yeah.
The dragon game with the prawns.
I see. Planet Crafter is a survival game that came out this year. It's sort of like Space Engineers a little bit, and Subnautica, but you're on a planet with oxygen instead of underwater with oxygen.
I've played both those games, but I haven't played this one.
Planet Crafter is fantastic. Me, Ian, and my brother Zach, all 3 of us played through it. There were some high highs, some low lows. The best part about the game, I would say, is there's a campaign of progression of you working through the planet, and that is, you were arrived on this planet and you are terraforming this planet. So everything is changing around you as you are increasing the oxygen in the atmosphere and building it out. So as the game progresses and your time on the server or the save, big ice caps are melting. So water is filling up in areas.
Yeah, water appears.
Yeah.
Grass starts appearing.
It literally starts you get bugs and animals.
Like, it starts like Mars, and by the end of the game, you have built this like beautiful Garden of Eden, rich green utopia, and that is gradually changing as you're going through the tech tree. So when you unlock something, it's not just like, oh, I did that tech tree. You go outside and you're just like, is that fucking grass? Is that fucking grass? I put that there. Like, it gives it such an incredible sense of progression.
Matt Damon simulator.
Yeah. It's just real quick. Just speaking of the tech tree, Will. We kept marveling at this because it's a problem that a lot of survival games have, which is that as you go through the tech tree, there's peaks and troughs where you're like, oh, that's cool tech. Oh, this is dumb tech. Or this is taking way too long to get this tech unlocked. Oh, this is way too easy to get this tech. It felt like the entire fucking tech tree in Planet Crafter was so well balanced, didn't it?
Yeah, because every the next stage you had to get to was so it was all pretty much exponential. As you're getting better and better tech. So you'll get like a thing that makes a little bit of grass, then you'll get a thing that makes a ton of grass, and then the next thing you get makes trees and grass, and builds up that way. But it's like when you want to get to the next stage, you put one grass thing to get through one stage, but the next stage you might have to build like 500 of those grass things, but you've gotten better ones to make more grass, and as the terraforming bar fills up, you hit the next grass stage, so you unlock insects. And while you're researching insects, the next unlock on the tech tree wasn't the one next in whatever specific line you're in. So if you're in like mammals and you unlock a cat, the next in the one after it's a dog, you're not going to unlock dog next, you're going to unlock better way to make oxygen next. So you're not stuck on the same track where you're like, I'm so sick of like putting this part together. You are moving over back and forth between all these different lines. So rocketry, then making water, then putting a satellite up. So it gets to the point where you can specify into something, but you're not getting bored by being like, I'm only digging stone in Minecraft. I just need to find diamond. I can go off in that sort of Elden Ring way and do something else for a bit, you know?
Yeah, and you touched on this a little bit, but it also does two things that are, it's not that they're unique, it's just that they're rarely done in survival games, and they're rarely done this well. And one is the world is not procedurally generated. It is a map that they have crafted and you feel that because for example, we talked about how you're terraforming. So when you first get there, there's like big blocks of ice that are blocking caves or certain tunnels or new areas, right? So as you're terraforming, that ice melts and it gets to a point where, oh, now you can go through that area that was previously blocked, and it's unlocking new stuff and revealing new areas for you. And that goes hand in hand with something else a lot of survival games don't do well, or don't do at all, which is story. Because as you're going through this, you're starting to uncover salvage and wreckage and come across ruins, and you're starting to read these logs and diaries and unveil the story of what's happened on this planet and how that's going to impact you and what choices you make towards the end of the game. And it becomes compelling in a weird way to want to explore this world and unlock more of the story, which for me was very surprising in what is first and foremost a survival and crafting and building game, to all of a sudden be like, oh no, I really want to know what's going to happen next in the story. Where's that next ruin, etc.
There was a moment, and I can't remember if you were there, Ian, or you had logged off and Zach and I were like finishing up. But I don't remember exactly what the story beat was, but we like went down into this bunker we found, and we found the equivalent of like in a movie where they pick up a note and it just says run or like behind you. And it was like, we were just like, what the fuck? And like got out of there. And it's just like, what is happening in this game? So that was probably one of the best parts, is having that crafted story for you. So like, again, when you're bored of the one thing, you're like, hey, I have all these weird coordinates on my map. I'm going to spend like an hour and just race around and see where all these coordinates go to. So Planet Crafter, fantastic video game. One of the best 12 games of 2024.
That's right. Speaking of the next one of the best 12 games of 2024, we have on April 25th from Aggro Crab, Another Crab's Treasure, which is a Souls-like adventure where you play as a hermit crab using trash as shells, fighting through polluted waters to save your home. Jake, it's my understanding that you really like this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one that, even just 2 or 3 years ago, if you were like, Jake, you should play this game, I would have been like, no, thank you. Because for a long, long time, I was avoiding anything that had even the most tangential association to Dark Souls. Because everybody was like, oh, they're so hard. It's all hard. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to play that, if it's just challenge for challenge's sake. But then I played Elden Ring, baby's first Souls-like. And I'm like, oh, I kind of love this. And so then when Another Crab's Treasure came out, it was hitting right at a time when I was watching a lot of like oceanographic documentaries and whatnot. And I was like, this thing rules, because this is like actually probably like baby's first Souls-like, where it's got kind of that challenging, potentially unforgiving combat where you have to, you got to learn to parry, you got to learn the enemy move set so that you know when to like dodge out of the way and all this. But the gimmick in Another Crab's Treasure is, I think, as Ian mentioned in the little description about it, all your little shells that you can pick up are little bits of garbage throughout the ocean, and they each have different, like they each give you a different unique ability. That allows you to tailor it to the kind of combat that you want to do. Like one shell lets you like roll around and like run into people. Another one will like shoot a blast of bubbles at the enemy and stun them. Just really, really charming, and I think really well put together for a team of that size. It was a lot bigger of a game than I was expecting. There was just like a lot to do, and the boss design was super fun, and the music was great, and it's fully voice acted, or not fully voice acted, but it's got like a lot of voice acting in it. And just a charming little Souls-like about a little cute little hermit crab just trying to get his shell back because his shell got repossessed.
And he misses his kids. Yeah.
You gotta go get it. And it really goes to some crazy places where you're like, oh, okay, now I'm here. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm fighting this thing. Really good stuff. If you ever wanted to fight,
God,
like a deep sea God, not quite, but COD. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Call of Duty.
That would be good. Killing COD. No, but it's yeah, it's really good. I really loved it. It's definitely my top 5.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on Another Crab's Treasure?
Did nobody else play this? I thought Will at least played some of it.
This is a positive stream, Jake.
No, no.
You know what? I did play a little bit of it. I did play a little bit of it. I didn't enjoy it because I don't like Soulsborne games, but I will say I really, really liked how they took. It's exactly like you say, like Soulsborne games in that genre is a monopoly of try-hard, grimdark assholes that make those games and that enjoy those games and play those games, right? And this was Another Crab Shepherd felt like they were like, just like you, where they were like, hey, there's actually really good gameplay in these games despite like the completely off-putting state of the community around them. So we're going to make a game that just shirks all of that grimdark try-hard and is just like funny and light and colorful, but it still has that like challenging Soulsborne gameplay, but also a bunch of difficulty sliders. So if you want to, you can dial it all the way down. And
there's a version where they just give you like a full-sized handgun, but you're the hermit crab, and so it's just enormous.
It's like in the difficulty settings at the bottom, it just says like "give crab a gun" or something.
It's very good.
So I did really appreciate. I'm still not a big Soulsborne fan, but it was great to play a game that didn't feel like a bunch of like metalhead assholes made it for me, in a way. This was just like, no, you can make fun games and have the exact same gameplay as a Soulsborne game. And that was really unique to see. Folks, let's move on to May 9th. Our next game from Billy Basso, Animal Well, which is a haunting Metroidvania where you explore a mysterious well filled with cryptic secrets, surreal creatures, and mind-bending puzzles. Kyle, it's my understanding that you really liked this game.
Yes, this is my game of the year. It topped my list for sure. I fell in love with this game, I think, from the first reveal that they had, which came from Video Game Donkey, everybody's favorite YouTube donkey. And his publishing arm, Big Mode. That was their first game. People doubted it. Everyone who doubted it was wrong. It's a great game. He has a really good eye, I think, clearly for games that stand out on their own, just in terms of aesthetics, but also the uniqueness that they're able to offer within the worlds that they create. And I think that Animal Well is a testament to just really, really straightforward, like, this is a puzzle game, and we're going to wrap that lovingly in a very lush aesthetic and create a world that sort of just folds over itself with detail, with every sort of new section that you're able to unlock of the map. I think that same depth is then extended to the tools that you're able to use. So like you start out, and I think the first one that you get is like the bubble wand, or one of the first ones that I got was the bubble wand. And it just is so interesting how such a simple mechanic of like, hey, you can use this to jump a little bit further, can then be extended into a variety of different ways to solve puzzles and stuff. Yes. Yeah. It's the more you use things, the more you realize, oh, it's not just this one thing that I'm able to do. I think the way that it opens, where it's like you start out as this, like, I call him a little plop. He's just a little thing. He's just a little dude. Like, that's just who you are. And you're in this sort of dark, cavernous, really lush like underground section, and you're like, okay, well, what is this? And the more you expand your knowledge of what this is, the more the mystery sort of unfolds as to like what is actually happening. And I think the game works on so many different levels, because you can just go straight forward to the end and be like, okay, I'm gonna get the 4 flames and then I'm gonna get the credits. But then there's a second level where it's like, of course, there are secrets within the world. There are rooms that are a little bit harder to find, things that are a little bit more difficult to access, more tools that you can use to, like, you don't need to get every single tool to beat the end of the game, I don't think.
Which is great. Missing like 3.
Yeah, and if you want to go in and 100% it, then like you get more of an ending than you would have if you just go straight to the end from the beginning. But then there's also like a third and possibly like fourth level that's almost has an ARG component to it, where it takes the community of people playing the game to put together the puzzle pieces to solve like specific things in the world. There was a really cool thing that happened, I think, within the first month that the game was out, where through the community they were able to finish this puzzle. It's not really a spoiler, but well, I won't say what it is regardless, but they were able to put together a puzzle. It's okay, Will. You can listen. Also, I just realized you were pushing on something that it's not going to stop. That was good. I love stuff like that. I'm a big fan of ARG puzzles and riddles and stuff like that. I love it when movies have ARG campaigns. So for something like that to then be extended to a game is really, it just hits all the right notes for me. I loved the music in the game. It's so beautiful. And the fact that Billy did pretty much everything on his own, I think is, again, a testament to like his dedication. I love solo devs, indie devs in general, I think are out there creating just really cool experiences. And this one was just at the top of the list for me this year. I loved it. And I know, I think everyone here played at least a little bit of it. So I'm glad we all kind of got to share collectively in that, at least for a little bit.
Yeah. Jake, I feel like you've got some thoughts on Animal Well.
I also rolled credits on it because I played it in December, I think, or maybe even earlier this month. It took me a while to get around to it. I knew I was going to get around to it, but then there were like other things that I'm like, oh, well, let me try that because I know I'm going to play this. Because like Kyle said, from the very first reveal, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me see this. The highest praise I can give it in a bite-sized form is it made me feel the same way I did playing Hyper Light Drifter for the first time, where it's just a really it has a very precise artistic vision, and it executes on that in all the ways that it wants to. And the fact that it's just letting the world do all the heavy lifting of the storytelling, and it's in that very kind of minimal. It's not. I say storytelling. It's like, in the way that Dark Souls has storytelling, where you're just like, what is this crazy thing that I've just found, and why is it right here, and why does it want to kill me? I think I agree with everything that Kyle said about it. I want to highlight the sound design. I think like the soundscape, the mood, all of the little like interact sound effects are just so pitch perfect for like a game of that style. Like even the sound of just you like swapping items or throwing your disc. There's like a clicking sound when you like interact with a switch that is just like mwah. I think also, like I was saying, the learning how all your different tools work. Like I'm like, oh, I have this disc, that's neat, it can hit stuff, it can whatever, and then I'm like, wait, I can jump on it, I can
that was
ride it.
Like I got scared the first time it happened.
Yeah, I was like, oh wait, what happened? And then I'm like, wait a minute, I can cross enormous expanses of the map with this little disc. And yeah, it's just like you learning how to play the game makes you feel like it's like just like galaxy brain moments every 5 minutes where you're like, oh, this is what I can do, this is what's gonna happen. And the art direction, very good. All the like the dichotomy between your little plop character, like Kyle said, and then all like the animals, which are like not hyper real because it's all still the pixel art, but they're like so detailed that you're like, oh, this is obviously very like lovingly crafted. Good stuff. The particle effects are also very good.
The firecracker effect is like so
firecracker
beautiful.
is amazing. I like all like the hanging vines that you can interact with. the way that, like, I don't know what sort of, I don't remember what engine this was built in, but like the way that, like, there's at some point you can get a lantern, and the way that like light plays in all the environments, it's all so good. So this was my number 2. It wasn't quite my game of the year, but it was definitely, like, I loved this game, and I'm very excited to see what Billy Basso does next.
Awesome. Any other thoughts from the team on Animal Well? All right, let's move on. Gentlemen, I can't believe it, but the exact same day, May 9th, we have another incredible game from Sunset Visitor, 1000 Times Resist, which is a third-person narrative game set in a post-apocalyptic utopia comprised of clones and their deified creator, the All-Mother. Guys, this is not my type of game, but it is my game of the year, and I think that shocks me the most about this. Let me tell you why this is not my type of game.
When you were like, it's my game of the year.
You know, the thing was, like, it was getting such positive praise throughout the entire year, and it came down to, I think it was November or early December, that I was finally like, okay, I should play this. I need to be in the right mindset. I'm going to give it like an hour and a half. And within like 40 minutes, I was hooked. This is a story first, cutscene heavy game. But it's better than a visual novel. It's better than just two talking heads in a text box, because it has so much beautiful cinematography and editing in these cutscenes. So it's not like you're just sitting there reading text the whole time. It also has an incredible story with story beats that pay off and always keep you interested and compelled to see what's next. So you play it. For me, I played it in little chunks, and at every single end of the chunk, I would go think about it for a while, you know, and I was just like, what's going to happen next? What does that mean? Like, I can't believe they just revealed that. Or even just being like, I find this character fascinating. I want to know what's going to happen next. The writing on this is masterful. It just has layers and layers of themes, metaphors, symbols that aren't just, you know, it's not that there's 1,000 metaphors. It's that they're taking metaphors and reworking them and revealing and building and twisting on themselves throughout the story. I'll give you two good examples I have of this. One of them is like was said in the description. The story is basically these clones as created by the All-Mother. And you get to know the All-Mother throughout the game. Like at the start of the game, the All-Mother is just this very distant deity. Like everybody says Heki Almo, Heki Grace, you know, like almost like Jesus, right? You're like, I don't actually know who Jesus is. Everybody keeps talking about this Jesus guy, but I don't know who he is, right?
You missed out on a great opportunity earlier then.
Yeah, that's what it feels like with the All-Mother, right? But then you get to know her, and you start to know her as like this like prickly, angry teenager through flashbacks. And then through those flashbacks, you then get to know her as a daughter, as somebody who's a daughter to like a tiger mom and is like a second generation immigrant, and how she's having to deal with that. And then there's this moment like 8 hours into the game where at this point you're like, okay, I know who the All-Mother is, right? Like I know who she is. And there's this moment in this chapter, and I don't know, Jake, if you had kind of the same experience I had, where it's another flashback, but now they're showing the All-Mother as just like a single mom to all these clones. And the clones are growing up, and it's literally her like huddled in a room, and like the daughters are like knocking on the door like, mom, and she's just like, I just need some fucking peace in here, you know? Like she's just like this,
leave me alone.
Yes, and that blew me away, because by this time you spent 8 hours in the game, you feel like you know this character, but now you're seeing a completely like third, fourth, fifth side of them, and it's crazy. I'll just give another example of how masterful the writing in this game is. There's in the very first section, I don't know if it's tutorial or mission 1, Will's probably gone through it, where you're in the school and you're running around in this flashback talking to the All-Mother's old classmates. And you're just talking to them, right? You're just talking to them, and they're saying things. And then as you play the game, those phrases come up occasionally, because the other clones are like, oh yeah, that's like from history when so-and-so said this, right? And so some of them are little quotes or repeated lines. There's a moment about, you know, halfway, 2/3 through the game where there's aliens in the game that have come to Earth, and there's a moment where you are trying to communicate with the aliens, and you realize they are trying to communicate with you by showing you the people from the past and having them repeat the same exact lines. But because of the situation and the tone and what's happening, you know, somebody, I wish I could look up some of these quotes, but somebody saying like, oh, I have to go home late tonight now means something completely different to you. And so you're trying to like repeat these common phrases from these flashbacks to communicate with this alien species. Like the ways in which they play with language and words in this to help build on themes and grow. The writing in this game is absolutely incredible. Jake, what did you think of it?
Yeah, this was very much right up my alley of kind of, cerebral sci-fi. I liked the kind of um uh the repetitious nature of things, like you were saying, kind of in that of like the Ronald D. Moore Battlestar reboot, where it's implied of like these repeating cycles that are gonna
Yeah.
come back around. Because I don't think this is a spoiler, but like there's really kind of like 3 or 4 kind of time periods in which the game takes place. The
Mm-hmm.
first of which is the All Mother Iris, like her life as a teenager through when she becomes like the All Mother. And then there's like all of the clones, like you said, dealing with now All Mother has gone off to, I can't remember what they call it, like the Outer Lands. Like they call it some other thing. She's off. Like she's
Oh,
off doing her deity
the
thing.
other side or something like
The
that. I
other
forget,
side,
but
I
yeah.
think they call it. And then there's the fourth period, which I'm not necessarily going to spoil because to talk about that would be narratively to give away too much. But then they also show every once in a while we get flashbacks from the perspective of Iris's parents living in
Yeah.
Hong Kong, attempting to resist against the totalitarian crackdown happening in
Did you
Hong
catch
Kong.
the date, by the way? I believe it was I believe they imply that it's around 2046, which is when China is supposed to legally gain full control of Hong Kong. And when they dropped that date, I was like, oh, okay, that's adding context there.
I think I had heard about that because I believe Sunset Visitor is a Canadian company, which also plays in a little bit to the like the Hong Kong diaspora in Canada that sort of plays into the narrative. But there was a moment in one of those flashbacks, which I think is not necessarily like the thesis of the game, but it's a conversation between um, Iris's mom and Iris's dad, where throughout all of kind of Iris's flashbacks, the mom is kind of cold and kind of distant, but we understand that it's because of some there's more going on than just her being like kind of an emotionally walled off mother.
Yeah.
Um, where we realize that she's carrying a lot of guilt for like fleeing Hong Kong and not doing more to try to free it. Where then there's a conversation between the mom and the dad where the mom says something along the lines of like, well, our resistance didn't mean anything. It didn't change anything. Like, what's the point? And he says, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but he's like, no, the resistance was the point. We fought back, and now there's a record of that. People saw that we did that, and they can't take that away from us. That we pushed back against them, and seeing how that kind of then played into different narrative beats down the road, just a lot. There's a lot. We could unpack this for like the next 12 hours.
Yeah.
But
At
we
some point
won't.
we may need to do a spoiler chat, you, me, and Will once he finishes the game.
Because it's it's
not me.
Really
that's okay. I don't need to be there.
I don't know how far Kyle
I don't know if you I don't know. The thing is, I don't know if you played it. I know Will started.
I did start. I did not beat it, but I will be there.
Okay.
But yeah, very good. And of course I loved all like the more sci-fi elements. There's just a lot of very kind of the speculative fiction flourishes that you're like, oh yeah, that's neat. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good game.
Yeah, this game just took me by surprise. Any thoughts, Will or Kyle?
I mean, the narrative threads I think are pretty apparent, and even just from what you guys said, like the depth of the writing I think is apparent from the start. But again, I haven't gotten far enough into it to like really like experience a lot of what you're talking about. But I think that from what I have played, it is apparent that like this is there are. I keep going back to it, but like the depth of what the devs are doing with everything, I think is really impressive, just and very apparent from the beginning. So I'm excited to sink my teeth into it for sure.
I think there's something to be said for all the games that we have currently. Well, now this is our everybody's games of the year, as we've talked about, and everything else is just fun little flavor. There's something to be said that our 3 games of the year shared amongst the 4 of us are 3 games that have very specific artistic visions that are being acted upon like with very clear intent. Um, so I think they're all 3 very different games, of course, but I think they all are coming from like somebody had a very specific idea for a thing they wanted to do, and then they made that thing. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. This game this game just blindsided me, honestly. You know, like I was saying, I had to prepare myself because I thought I would hate this. This is not my type of game usually. I was not expecting this to be my game of the year, and in a way, I am forced to pick this as my game of the year. I feel okay about that decision now, but while I was playing the game, I was literally being like, this is so fucking, is this like, this has to be my game of the year, right? Because nothing else was having such an impact on me. You know, this game just felt incredibly brilliant. The complex characters that talk like humans, like you don't feel like you're watching a scene. It feels like you're eavesdropping on a conversation in a way. Those characters that they have their own unique emotions and history. They have their own depth, and then as the story goes, you see how they change, evolve, they grow, they make mistakes individually because of who their character is. I felt such a connection to these characters, and I felt so moved by these moments of honesty or weakness or challenge or catharsis that I was in tears multiple times playing this game because the story's just that incredible. It's the best game writing that I've ever experienced. And talking with Chris from Save Data, he brought up a good point, which is like, you know, fuck games. This really is some of the best writing I've ever seen in any aesthetic medium, book, movie, video game, whatever. And it's the most emotion that a video game has ever made me feel. And that's why, as much as it's a surprise to me, I'm like, this has to be my game of the year because of how much it's doing to me and how well it does that over the entire course of the game. 1,000 Times Resist. Incredible. Moving on. May 9th. May 9th, Animal Well and 1,000 Times Resist. Hell of a day.
A good day. Yeah.
Crazy. Next up, June 20th, from Software. I think technically all video games come from Software.
From Software.
They're coming?
Next up is Shadow of the Erdtree, which is a dark fantasy expansion to Elden Ring where players explore a mysterious new realm to uncover the secrets of Michaela's domain. Is that how you, that's how you say it, right?
Michaela. Kindly Michaela.
It actually just takes place in West Virginia.
Actually, Darkwaila? Maquila?
And we're going to cheer.
It's Q-U-E.
Miquela.
No, I think it's Miquela. I'm just trying to think of Q-U-E-L.
Okay.
Is that Quell? Like, what other words have Q-U-E-L and how do you pronounce them? Sequel?
Squirrel?
Maquila? Anyways, Kyle, tell us about Shadow of the Erdtree.
What more is there to say? It's about Michaela. No, I mean, it is a continuation of the world and incredible just experience that Elden Ring was. At least for me, I was really excited when they announced it. I had never played any kind of DLC from FromSoft before, so I was a little hesitant and interested to see if they would like change stuff up from what I had heard the other DLCs for like their other games were like. And really what it is straightforward, just more Elden Ring. And I do not think that is a deterrent. I know that some people were like, oh, it's a DLC, it shouldn't win Game of the Year. there's a whole other discussion you can have. It's not really that interesting to me to say whether or not it's valid. I still was able to sink around I think it was 50 hours is what it took me to it was about like 40-50 hours to fully beat Shadow of the Erdtree, and it did everything that I wanted it to do, and it gave me a chunk of time that I'm able to look back on fondly as saying that was more than worth what I paid. And the experience that I got ended up not just being like, oh, it was the same as Elden Ring. It was, oh, I get to play more of this thing that I love, and it's still just as good as I remember the base game being. And they added a ton more stuff as far as like all the things that you want them to add. There's more weapons, there's more stances, there's more magic, there's more bosses, there's more insane world design and character design happening. And I would actually go a little bit further and say that the story that they tell is so kind of beautifully tragic in a way that maybe the base game isn't. The base game feels extremely like epic and you're fighting to become the Elden Lord, but this is meant to take place like halfway through that. So it's a nice sort of detour, and most people who play it will have already beaten the base game. That being said, I think that going back to it, having beaten that full experience, it does offer a really unique take on sort of almost like a Greek tragedy of like just dealing with like consequences for the choices that characters make. And it's done in a very From Software way where it's like kind of vague, but also like there's a lot of content there if you really dig deep and look at the descriptions of certain items and find messages on the world. And the way that they weave the different characters' stories that you meet, the different knights that are sort of on similar quests that are like adjacent to each other, but all sort of tied together in what happened with Mikola and like Radahn. And it's just really, really interesting to me what they were able to pull from those threads from the base game and sort of weave into this really cool DLC experience that was like beautifully done, in my opinion. It wasn't my game of the year, but it was really, really far up there. I think it was my number 2. I really loved it, and I loved spending time in that world, and it was everything that I wanted it to be.
Jake, my understanding is you played Shadow of the Erdtree as well.
Yes, this was definitely also on like probably in my top 5 of game of the year. Yeah, like Kyle said, just like, oh, it's more of the game that I know and love, but also adding like a bunch of new stuff. I think I really got an appreciation for the way FromSoft does level design, where like at a certain point being like, I know I can get, like, I'm looking, I know I can get there, but how do I open up the map? And then at some point being like, what's the least logical place I should be looking for an entrance to that location? Let me go check that out. And then being like, sure enough, here's some podunk crack in the wall that's going to lead me to some dungeon I've never seen before that then winds and weaves. And then you're like, oh, now I'm in a new place. There is some crazy boss design that I was like every there were a handful of bosses that they showed in the trailers, but then there's some others that are like hidden away that you're like, this is maybe the coolest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. I also appreciated that it kind of forced me into a different play style. Like I rode through kind of Elden Ring, the base game, with one of the very first weapons I ever got that I just leveled up, and I liked the Ash of War that I had on it, and that's what I killed the Elden Beast with. But then I had to like kind of mix it up in Shadow of the Erdtree, and I respect twice at various points of being like, okay, well let me try this out, let me try that out. And so it was like, not that I felt like I had to do that necessarily, but I was finding myself being like, "Oh, well, let's try some new things." The environment, like the art direction, the environmental design is incredible. There are some parts of that game that are gorgeous, which I think is always good in I think Ian, you had made a passing remark about the kind of the dark metalhead aesthetic that a lot of these FromSoft games have, where it is a lot of stuff where you're like, this is maybe the grossest, like I'm just surrounded by gross dudes and gross stuff. And then you'll get to a part and be like, wait, is this the most beautiful place I've ever seen before?
The sort of the section of the map where, and it sort of unfolds in a really unique way, but there's a swath of land that's just these glowing blue flowers, and it sort of adds this bioluminescent flavor to it. And then you go a little bit further and it turns to like red, and it's a little bit more like the dragony area. And the weather effects, I think, pair really well with like certain sections. There's a big, in the bottom right hand side of the mountain, bottom right hand side of the map, there's a big mountain where there are some dragons, and like you scale your way up and the weather gets worse. And this, again, the sound design is, everything is so lush and just feels really, really cinematic. Even the that same sort of area with the blue flowers leads into another area where it's a field of the fingers that are like being almost like, it's like they're corpses of like dead fingers that were in the base game that you could use to upgrade the remembrances, and they would give you certain things. The storytelling on display there just visually is excellent. It's so interesting to see what they do, and the creatures that fill each of those spaces. You know, there's some really weird kind of like they're like snake worm things that are like leeches that are they're crazy and they're gross, but but they're like, oh, it's so interesting. So I just love stuff like that.
Kyle, did you get to the boss from doing all the finger horns?
The under the cathedral.
Yeah. That was one that I think is probably maybe one of my favorite FromSoft bosses. Which I mean, how can we do light spoilers? Is this a spoiler?
I'd say light spoiler. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so you blow on all these finger horns in these three little finger valleys, and then there's this dude you've been talking to throughout all this time who's like, it's a little bit like that, Will. He's like, he loves fingers. He's super jazzed about fingers. And then you go back to this church that he's been at, and he's not there anymore. You're like, wait a minute, there's a ladder under the chair,
and there's a button you can press. Yeah,
there's a button. Now there's a weird valley under here. Ooh, there's another finger horn. Let me blow it. You get pulled into like a dark dimension where you fight the mother of all fingers, I think is the actual name of the boss. And it is literally like you remember in I can't remember where exactly, which I think it's heading towards Renala in base game Elden Ring, where there's all like the castle with all like the big hands in it. Put like 100 of those together
in like a globule kind of like weird.
It's incredible.
And but then you look up and you can see the undersides of fingers that are like above you. It's really, really cool.
There's also a boss fight that happens in a pool of cough syrup at the bottom of a chasm.
Which one is that?
Gross stuff. It's on the way to St. Trina. It's the big like skeleton that's riding a goo horse, and he's got like that big blade that he swings flops around.
For a second, I thought you were talking about there's another boss in probably one of the darkest sections of the game visually, and also like there's a creature in the woods that you can kind of like try and sneak by a little bit, but there's multiple versions of them and they will just one shot you like instantly. And there's a very limited amount of time you have to like parry their attacks, in which time they become vulnerable. But anyway, that section, once you sort of weave through the many sort of like overgrowths and trees and stuff, there's a mansion in there. And in the mansion is there's essentially what amounts to like a scientist, and his wife had been researching madness of the yellow flowers or whatever it was called. And yeah, that's what it was. It was you fight RFK Jr.
Wuhan Castle.
It's good. Yeah.
Wuhan next
Castle.
To a meat market.
Wet.
I'm sorry, wet market.
There you go. A meat market. But that boss in there, I thought was disgustingly glorious. Like,
oh yeah,
he pulls his own sword out of his body almost, and it's just made of this sort of like mad yellow glowing like embers of like a I don't know, like a crazy sort of plant thing. Just crazy cool design on that stuff, as we get laughed at for having a really good time in this game.
Now I need an Armored Core 6.
Will's making remarks.
I'm thinking about pulling the sword out of my body. What do you want from me?
There you
go. This is the game I wanted to play the most this year. Or last year, I guess.
Never rebeat Moog.
But I was in the worst position ever. I had to either restart the game or restart the game harder. And I restarted the game, and I'm at Moog. I'm like, I just killed a bunch of guys at a spot for like 4 hours. But I lost all passion for wanting to play
those
that.
little red albinrex that give you a bajillion runes.
It was the guys with the huge heads and the eyes.
Yes, the albinorex.
They like roll around.
Sorry. I did not. You said a word, and I didn't pick up any of the
Did you do the... I remember the sleeping dragon trick, which gave you like... It's just a dragon sleeping, and you hack at him for 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get back to it eventually, because I feel like it was still too close to beating that stuff. Then do
Jake,
like,
you have a question?
Careful, Jake.
From
Jake.
Whoa, our heart to yours.
Where did that start?
I really love this game. No, I wanted to only briefly mention that Shadow of the Erdtree does have what has to date been my favorite FromSoft NPC, which is Egon, who you meet on the mountain that Kyle was talking about, who essentially you can begin like a Moby Dick quest line with this guy trying to get vengeance on the dragon that took his legs.
He's great. He's great.
And when you summon his little spirit ghost into the arena with you, the voice actor just
starts yelling
wild. He's screaming at this dragon. And he's like, it's just, I can't even pretend to try to replicate it because it's so good, but it was thrilling for like trying to beat this boss a couple of times on my own and then being like, let me progress the quest line to see if this guy helps me at all. And then being like, oh, this is my favorite thing ever. Yeah, very good.
Yep.
Awesome
good stuff.
Gentlemen, moving on July 22nd, we have from Bureau 81, The Operator, which is a psychological horror game where you play as a telephone operator connecting calls in a mysterious facility with dark secrets. Will, I know you played this game.
Yeah, I played it. It's The Operator. If you've never heard of it, that's the name of it.
What's it called?
The Operator. I don't know if Ian mentioned it. It's great. No, it is a game. It's one of those games where you're sitting you're at the thing. It's like the Papers, Please, or there's that Hotline game that came out recently,
or Her Story.
Her Story as well. And you're an FBI agent, and you are FBI or CIA? I think it's CIA.
No, isn't it a different? Isn't it a different
I think it's,
bureau?
but I'm trying to figure which one it's trying to emulate. I think it's trying to emulate.
I think it's supposed to be FBI because it's internal. It's domestic.
Oh, that's true. And you were just you start out by being the person, like when there's a guy out on a case, they call in and you're the expert who does all the research stuff. So like, hey, we need to know this is the guy's name, what kind of car does he drive, what's the license plate, that sort of stuff, and you're filling it out. And as it goes on, there's a conspiracy inside the agency that rears its head. There's the person who had a job there before you who's leaving you notes. And it's very story driven and all about the story, so I don't want to give anything away, but this game also has one of those moments of the like pick up the note and says behind you or run, where you like see something and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And I highly recommend it to people. Was this their first game, Bureau 81? I don't actually recall, but it's excellent. It satisfied all those puzzle game aspects, and to that end, the diegetic screen and all the stuff you're doing there is really well done, And even the cutscenes where it's like you're going home and stuff, it like blurs it, and you like sort of see a car driving, and then you sort of see your apartment, and like hear the fridge
just hear
opening.
all the noises around you.
Yeah, the sound design for those moments, like you can hear the person watching TV next door, and it's just like, man, this guy's life sucks. He's working at the FBI, so
it is.
I really liked it.
It is time for me. When this game came out and we played it, I talked about how there was a story beat in this game that was very upsetting for me. It's now Game of the Year time. It's time for me to talk about that moment with you, Will. I think we already talked about it a little bit, which is a little ways into the game, you have to defuse a bomb over the telephone. So you're like, they're like, oh my God. And you have to ask, you get this giant manual and you have a 20-minute timer and you have to ask them questions like, how many wires are there? Is there a battery? Is there liquid? Is it any fuel or plastic explosives? And I was going through this thing. I was playing it one morning before work. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't have to work till 9. So I'm like, great, I'll play this game for a bit. I get to this moment. It gets very tense. There's a character you love that is defusing the bomb and you're trying to guide them through it. And I made a mistake and the bomb blew up and they died. And you have
Pop quiz hotshot.
It just keeps going. Like the game just keeps going. And there's a little bit where they're just like, oh my God. And your boss is a little bit like, I'm sorry, like you messed up. And you just have to go the rest of the game without that person. And that moment was so emotionally devastating for me that I saved the game, quit, and I just went to work an hour early. Cause I was like, I can't. I felt so fucking guilty. Like the game has so many story beats like that hit you like an emotional bomb. It's crazy. Jake or Kyle, either of you get a chance to play this game?
This was on my list, and unfortunately, just I did not get the time to sit down with it. But I'm going to.
Speaking of time,
it seems like it's right up my alley.
Yeah, and it's like 3 hours. It's really good, and I'll just echo what Will said. It's like incredibly immersive storytelling. Like when you step back from it and think about it, it is a very linear story. It's not like you're directing the story in any way, but the way that they tell it by putting your hands on the computer and you're going through these actions, and they're not really they're puzzles, but they're relatively simple, and it's not about figuring out the puzzle necessarily. It's about puzzle as a mechanism to reveal the story. Just the way that they really have you immersed in that and taking you through that, and you're interacting with the computer and the systems and everything. Absolutely incredible game. I did not expect to have, between this and 1,000 Times Resist, these like narrative story heavy games really hit with me this year. And the operator is very, very good. Highly recommended.
And I would like to admit that I had that bomb go off and I just reloaded the game.
Yeah, I will say I was watching the save data stream because they played it because we recommended it, and they defused the bomb first try with like 5 minutes left. They did a good job.
I don't remember what I did, but I just misread something, and I thought it was like implying something, and I clicked it and it blew out, and I was like, I saw you could still play, and I was like, nah, I kind of want to go back because I wouldn't actually do that. Yeah. But
I thought about it, but I was like, no, I fucked up. I have to live with this now. I don't really good.
But my character I was role playing doesn't misread, so I had to go back.
Oh, okay. He's a time traveler.
He's a time traveler. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, folks, let's keep it moving forward. We've got 3 games left. This game in particular came out on September 6th from Team Asobi. That's right. We're talking about Astrobot, which is a charming platformer where you guide a tiny robot captain through colorful worlds to rescue his lost crew, reassemble their broken ship, and save the galaxy. Kyle, you played this game, right?
Yeah, I did. I don't own a PlayStation 5, but I managed to play it somehow, and
Did you torrent one?
No, I borrowed a friend's PlayStation 5, so I downloaded a PlayStation 5. Yes,
you wouldn't,
which the FBI doesn't want me to do, but too bad. This is, as was very apparent in their Game of the Year Game Awards acceptance speech, this is a love letter to everything that makes up a good puzzler platformer. Like it is a glorious celebration of that genre. Sorry, Mochi's trying to knock over my computer. The inventiveness, the brightness, it's such a lovely sort of light bright game for the majority of the playthrough. The music, again, the sound design, it all sort of funnels together in this really nice, pleasant experience that just lasts, I think, the perfect amount of time. I think it was it like 20 hours? Like how long did it take you guys? For those of you that played it, do you know how long it took you? I want to say it was like 20.
I mean, I didn't do all the side stuff. I did a little bit of the side stuff. I ended with like 210 bots, and it probably took me 15, 16 hours, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like somewhere around there. But it just, I'm really big on games not overstaying their welcome.
Yes.
And this just felt like a really, really well put together, compact experience that, again, was a really big celebration of everything that makes that genre so special to so many people. And I think it takes homage from obviously a bunch of the Sony characters, with which you, not to spoil anything, but the aspects of those worlds and games that are beloved by a lot of people from Sony show up in Astrobot. Go figure. And it's just like every level was like, what are we going to do next? Like it was a very much a I was looking forward to playing more every time I sat down to play it, and it never felt like a slog. It never felt like it was something that I had to play. It was just like this sort of joyous experience. So it was that, for everyone that played it, was that like similar, or what's everyone's thoughts?
Yeah, totally agree. I feel like this was, I've played Astrobot games before, specifically Astrobot Rescue Mission, which was the pack-in for the PS5, and is very, very good as well, but kind of a bite-sized version of this. And I knew how well they are at making these 3D platformers, but to see them put it into a full-size game, full-length game, it's like, holy shit, somebody other than Nintendo made a perfect 3D platformer. It really does feel incredible. It plays really well. They're always mixing things up. They've got a variety of levels, a variety of things to do. It also like simultaneously caters to all skill levels and like linear versus explorative gameplay. Like you can sit down and take the easy path through the mainline levels and be done with the game, right? Or you could just do the mainline levels but explore a little bit and try and unlock everything in them. Or you could go to the challenge levels, or you go to the challenge levels and really make it difficult for you. Like it has all those paths open to you, and it doesn't, it really is, hearing about people on podcasts talk about, hey, my 6-year-old just beat this game and was so hyped about it. And it's like, it's fucking awesome that a 6-year-old can beat this game. Like, that's awesome. This really is like a for all ages. Everybody will love it. It's amazing game. And that's awesome to see. Will, I know you played some Astrobot.
Yeah, I 100%ed it. No big deal. I was trying to look how long it took me, but I think I have to boot up my actual PlayStation 5 to see that. It's really good. It's fun. It didn't make, I don't think it made my list. It didn't make my list this year, only because I couldn't figure out what game to take off of my list.
Like Astrobot.
Yeah, more like Astrobot. Actually, the coffee had smelled awful. So yeah, I don't know what Ian did.
Oh shit, it's my coffee. Hey man.
Yeah, now it smells awful. But I really enjoyed all the little moments in it. The Uncharted level was fun. The Ragnarok, and then like I said, the challenge levels were really fun. That is where I was like sitting forward, gamer position. Like you die, you go, come on! Like what am I doing? Because they're like one-shot levels, and you get so pissed. And they're just fun. It's a fantastic game, great follow-up to the pack-in from a couple of years ago, and I hope what they do next is make another game. That would be nice.
Yeah, highly recommend. I also think, just to call this out, the DualSense controller, which is the PS5 controller with the adaptive pressure triggers and everything, it's a very good controller because of those features, and it's a shame that not many games take advantage of it, and Astrobot is one of those games that takes advantage of it. They brought back kind of the gachapon capsule element from the previous game, where when you pop a capsule, it ends up in your hands, and you have to kind of crush it with the triggers, and it feels so good to break through that adaptive trigger barrier to crush the capsule. Just awesome tech piece as well, component to this game. It says It says here our next game on October 11th was Metafart Refantasio. Is that right?
That's crazy.
It says it's a 3-hour tutorial. Can't play the game to start with. I still remember you streamed the beginning of this, didn't you, Will?
I streamed the demo of Metaphor Refantasio on stream. I streamed it on stream, folks. It was incredible. It was the best stream that's ever happened. And I played for a while, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this game?" It's Daddy's baby's first Atlas game, and I played through it, and then I finished that stream absolutely hating it. And for some reason, I said, "What if I kept fucking playing it?" So then I kept playing that demo, and that demo lasted me 10 hours, 8 hours.
Wow.
Or maybe 4. I can't remember where the cutoff was, but that's
a big difference there.
And well, to say I stopped the demo and played the game, I could have kept going with the demo. Gotcha. But it was like I kept waiting for it to be like, here's a story beat where it says buy Metaphor Refantasio, and when it finally came, it's like, hey, you should buy this game, but also you can play for 3 more days, like in-game days. And I'm like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is my first Atlas game, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm clicking with the characters, even though the main character has the most annoying voice ever. It is the most annoying voice ever, and I hate them. But you have this little fairy lady with you that is hot, and then you have a lot of, actually not many of the characters are hot except the little fairy lady, which is weird because you'd think like this game should be full of like anime.
So is it woke
titties.
Or not?
I think it is woke because you have blue hair. But overall,
you get to the end and you realize the whole thing's an allegory.
Exactly. And that, yeah, exactly. It takes place over like days. So like there was this big dungeon that you go to, and it takes you multiple days to go through the dungeon. Every time you come home at night, you can like heal up your party, and then you go back into the dungeon. The story is you are a guy who can make his metaphor come out of him, and you turn into like sometimes like a big old robot, iron robot man made of steel, and all the characters that you have in your party have different metaphors, and you can hot swap them out in the main menu, or go to this like this in-between world where there's an author who was banished by the king, and he's writing a novel, and sometimes when you're in that world you get glimpses of like Tokyo, like our Tokyo. Oh. And like he's like, you can't quite, because your main character has this book that no one, your character has this book that is a fictional book, and I guess fictional books don't like exist. So it's like this, every time you read it, you go to this other thing, and then you're turning into stuff. It's very strange. But I really enjoy it. The other part that happens pretty early on is the king dies, and this guy in the opening scene, before you like hit the press start to play the game, they show this like noble murdering the king, and so that plot point comes up, and you're like, cool. I know that fucker murdered the king, and he's like, yeah, and everyone's like, everyone knows he murdered the king, but what are we gonna do? He's gonna become the next king. And then all of a sudden, the entire palace lifts off into the sky, and the king's face is underneath it. And the king's like, listen, fuckers, I got so much magic that people are going to have to fight for popularity to see who becomes the next king. And if anyone tries to kill like the top 3 contenders, my magic will stop you. Also, here's a giant statue with all the contenders' faces on it. And the size of their face is like how much popularity awesome. They have behind them. And it's just, you're like, okay. And he's like, there's going to be these tournaments, and then it just gets wild from there. So I've been really meaning to go back to it. I played it on the Steam Deck a little bit, and it runs really well on the Steam Deck. It runs awfully on the Steam Deck docked. It looks like hot garbage, which is very understandable because it's trying to push it all the way up to 4K and run off the Steam Deck. But
gotcha.
I haven't been playing it very often because I'm at a part where I like need to sit down and read a bunch of text and like do stuff, and I'm not like grinding a JRPG, so I need to sit down at my computer and play it. But I was really blown away by this game. It annoyed me at first, but it really got its hooks in me, and I still think about it, and I'm excited to get back to it because it's really well made. It's
I
awesome.
think we should next year we should expand our awards because I would have given this best title treatment because that logo
Best
slaps.
font.
Yeah. We
It
can do
does
that. We can
slap.
totally do awards like that. I feel like I know we have a don't talk ill of games in the Goaty thing, but I feel like if Atlas just fixed their fucking intro problem where they're like, hey, this game's fantastic, but you have to slog through the first shitty 4 or 5 hours, right? I feel like that's a problem with all of their games. And if they just fixed that, I would play this game immediately. But I don't have time to do a 2 to 3 hour cutscene button through.
Well, you could
just to
always
get
pay
to this game.
someone like Elon did with Path of
That's
Exile.
true. That's true. I could do that. Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Well, thank you, Will, for talking about Metaphor Refantasio. Go ahead, take a breath, because we're going to talk about our next game. October 17th, Super Mario Party Jamboree. You were adamant this had to be on the list.
It's crazy because you assured me you did not order this list from 12 to 1, but here it is, number 1, baby.
Number 12,
Super
folks.
Mario Party Jamboree. That's right, folks. Have you ever wanted to play Mario Party more and have it be good? Then this is the game for you. It's
what number Mario Party is this actually? Because Hazel and I we're like
13 or 14,
12 or 13.
You know, I'll look it up. Y'all keep talking.
It's like they took the entire team that made Mario parties since the Wii and they shot them and they dumped their bodies and they said, yeah, thank God they're dead. And they hired a bunch of new people and said, hey, you like old school Mario Party, make a good one. And that is what this is. They have gone back to like, hey, let's not have too much bullshit in this game, like all these allies and their dice. And anyways, we got rid of allies this year anyways. And Mario Party was doing it last year, getting rid of.
Jamboree's got allies.
Yeah, but not in the same way that Super Mario Party does.
Oh, sure, but they still have them. You can still get a little buddy.
But they are Jamboree buddies now. No, but before they were like you could randomly pick them up on the map and they were with you for the rest of the entire thing and they rolled with you. I know
how it works.
Every single time.
It was explain it to me.
A nightmare.
Wow.
And now they've made it a lot better.
I can't explain this real quick. This Super Mario Party Jamboree is the 12th mainline Mario Party game. It is the 19th overall Mario Party game if you include Mario Party Advance, Mario Party DS, Island Tour, Star Rush, the Top 100, Mario Party Superstores, and something called Mario Party -E, which I need to look into whatever that is. Oh, it's a card game using the Nintendo e-reader.
Hell yeah, that amazing product. But yeah, on top of a well put together Mario Party core mode, which also includes pro mode where you can get rid of all luck-based minigames, they also included several other games throughout the islands, including the cooking one where you have cook-offs, and you and up to 3 other friends can sit there and the Beat Saber-ish cut vegetables and make cakes and make hamburgers and all that sort of stuff, trying to get a top score. It is really fun. It is a nice like warm up and cool down sort of game, abutting a Mario Party Jamboree. And then also there's a single player mode where you are like building the maps that are in the game so the jamborees can happen on them. And you are basically going around doing the adventure game thing where you're like, this item goes to this guy who gives me this thing, and I can put this item over there to get that thing from that guy. And you're doing mini games to get those items, and then fighting bosses, which are like these big mini game sort of bosses that they beefed up. Overall, a fantastic Mario Party, a great return to form. Things are looking up since they put out Mario Party Superstars, and now with Super Mario Party Jamboree, I just cannot wait for what they have in store on Switch 2 for a Mario Party. Jake, your hand is raised.
Yes. When do I unlock the last board? Because I thought Hazel and I bought this, and I thought it was very elegant how by the time that you play through those first 4 boards, you'll have gained enough XP or whatever to unlock the Western Railroad one.
Mhm.
But I know that there's one more on that little mountain in the background. When do I unlock it?
I don't remember. I would. That's gonna take a cursory Google for you.
Because I'm also Hazel and I are playing Mario Party like once or twice a week.
Hey, you should.
that's fun.
You should play
Yeah.
Mario Party with Karen and I. We can. We have the technology.
We should do this.
That would
and
be very
FaceTime
fun.
the whole time. Yeah.
I will say, I'm not a fan of Mario Party in general, but this was the most fun Mario Party I played.
You'll
Especially
rewatch our
when we played it
2023
at
Extra Life stream.
Extra
to see
Life,
some
yeah.
evidence of
Yeah.
2024 extra live
Yeah.
stream.
No, it was.
Did we not
It
say
was
that?
2023. It was not this most
Jake.
recent one.
We played this
are you
most
okay?
recent one.
Jake,
Jake,
we
we're
did.
talking about 2024 games in tonight, which
I
means it
know.
had to be Extra Life 2024.
No, but
that we
I'm
played
saying
this.
it was 2 years ago that we did the really long one that went past the
Mario
end.
Party 2.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
that was a
yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah.
That,
That's
yeah,
what I was
wanted-
talking about.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
tough.
okay. I thought you were saying we played Jamboree in 2023.
Who's on
and
first?
I don't know.
You're
I
somewhere
don't
else,
know.
bud.
What's on second? I don't know who's on third.
Third base.
we should reenact that one day. That would
Yeah,
be great.
yeah,
a lot
that's
of
such a
lot
good
of old
idea.
Avenue Susquehanna Hat Company.
Yeah, we could do all the racist
anyways,
ones
folks.
too.
Sorry, I interrupted Kyle, and then we got derailed. Kyle,
Oh, yeah,
keep
yeah.
talking.
I mean, it wasn't worth being uninterrupted. So, no, I was just saying it was the most fun I've had playing a Mario Party game ever, which is a low bar, but I really did enjoy it. It was great. As long as you're not playing 50 goddamn turns, it's a great time.
It's true.
50 turns with low blood sugar.
I still
Not a
hold,
good
It was
mix.
rough, yeah.
I still hold stealing from other content creators. The next time we play Mario Party, we'll have to do the try to lose or try not to win Mario Party.
Oh,
And I think that would be fun.
I'm down.
Brutal. Well, folks, that's our list. Top 12 games of the year with our three goaties, Balatro, Animal Well, and 1,000 Times Resist. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts about the year overall for video games?
Good year.
Good
It
year.
was we definitely got a lot of good games. I didn't feel like it was as packed as the
2023.
previous year. Like I was actually, when we were prepping for this, I was realizing that I'm like, I don't really have like a 10 favorite games. I had like 6
Yeah.
or 7, and then I was kind of like, oh, well, here's some filler
Mhm.
of like games that I enjoyed, but I wouldn't have said were like GOATY. Whereas last year, I felt like I was really having to be like, oh, what the heck do I put on this list? Because there's so
Yeah.
much. But next week, Monster Hunter Wilds comes out, so there's GOATY 2025. Just get it out of the way right here early.
Yep. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like 2023 was arguably the greatest year ever in video games. And I knew this year would be a little bit weak, but what I think surprised me is that AAA games just kind of fell flat this year, right? You know, we started off strong with Suicide Squad, you know, and then we had Concord, you know, and it was great to see the indies come in. Like you're saying, Jake, like it's not about AAA, it's not about budget, it's about kind of having like a singular aesthetic vision that you deliver completely in a game and you perfect the mechanics around it, etc. And I think our list really demonstrates that there is still a lot of variety and incredible craftsmanship in gaming. You just need to stop looking only at AAA games. You know, a majority of our list is indie games or AA games, and there's a lot of incredible stuff there. Kyle, Will, how'd you guys feel about this year?
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed the fact that it was, I guess, a slower paced game year of gaming would be an apt description. It didn't feel as jam packed, which I think after a year that was jam packed is like a nice reprieve. But the games that I liked, I really liked, and I felt like they were spread out enough that it was. Everything was playable at least the pace that I'm used to, and it just felt like a kind of like, okay, take our time a little bit more than last year. We're gonna not be frantic about trying to finish everything and get to the end just to say like, okay, I beat it. I beat the game that everyone's talking about. And I like that sort of slower pace for sure. But yeah, as far as like this year goes, I have no idea what's in store other than like a few of the major releases. So I'm not sure what to look forward to. And Jake, I'm surprised you didn't say that Hyper Light Breaker was going to be your game of the year.
I don't know if it's going to come out of early access this year or not.
Yeah.
If it comes out of early access, I'll count it potentially. But I know Monster Hunter is coming out, and I
sure.
gotta get me more Monster Hunter.
Yeah. Will, thoughts on 2024?
It was a good year. God was good. We reaped all that we sowed, and it's weird. I was trying to look up on this here thing I have how many games from 2024 I still haven't finished from last year, and I think it's 4 or 5 that I really want to get back to. If we're technically counting Caves of Cud, but there's Jutaro that I want to finish because that game's fantastic and I love it, and I only played like an hour of it. And they just had their Kickstarter for their next game that I backed. I'm very excited for that. But like Stalker 2, I want to get back to now that the Life 2.0, A Life 2.0 is coming out. Because I've like
they are bringing that out.
They've implemented the first like half of it. So it is like, so now NPCs actually like go from destination to destination and don't spawn in. But Stalker 2, I have like 35 hours in, and I really had a blast with it. And now that this next stuff is going to be in there, I'm like, how can this get any better? This is great. And then finishing Metaphor, and then there are a few other indie games that I started last year that I just want to get through. So I'm so happy we're done with Game of the Year, because it means I can kind of relax and play video games slowly again. But I'm also like, holy shit, I got to finish all these games. Like 1,000 Times Resist, I got to play still. And Animal Well, I unfortunately did not play, so I need to get to that as well. And it was an exciting year. But overall, I think with your AAA thing, very, very slow in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, just as a kind of button on top, you know, Kyle, you brought up like you're not sure what to look forward to this year. And I was thinking about previous years and how the AAA games aren't really hitting. But in January of each of these years, we didn't know. A lot of these banger indies were not even announced, or if they were announced, they were completely under the radar. And so I'm excited to see what games blow up this year, right? You know, things like, you know, just looking through our list, you know, we knew Animal Well was coming, but it was like, okay, is it going to be any good? We knew Helldivers 2 was coming, but it was like, okay, is it going to be any good? Balatro was a nobody at the beginning of the year. Steam Next Fest gave it some heat, and then it blew up, right? So like it's almost a comforting feeling to know that like probably the top games of this year we don't even know about yet. Like there's just surprises waiting for us, and all we do know is by the end of this year there's guaranteed to be some bangers, and I'm super excited to play them.
Hell yeah. That's it. That's Game of the Year, folks.
That's Game of the Year. Take us out, Will.
Best of the Yearies 2024. Folks, we that button. Folks, I love you so much. You're gorgeous and you're beautiful. Kyle, Ian, Jake, thank you for being here. You're perfect, all of you, except one of you, and you know who you are. We will be back this weekend, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, with some Darkest Dungeon.
That's right.
That'll be my first stream out of my new apartment. This is the last stream out of the old apartment. Boo! We hate this apartment. So we'll be in the new place, set up. What? What do you want? What do you want, Butterball?
Yeah, we also will be having a Discord watch party tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, for some VeggieTales. For anybody who'd like to stop by, we're going to be watching some classic VeggieTales episodes in our Discord.
You're right.
I'll paste that link in the chat right now.
Thank you for saying that. And folks, at 5 p.m. on my Discord, we're going to be watching Tales Veggies. So check that out. It's going to be super fun. No, we'll be back next week with our local chat. Bye.